My name's Bruce Watson. I've been in the professional hunting business since 18 years old, basically. I started my apprenticeship with Buffalo Range Safaris at 18. So I've been in the business for many years.
My name is Guav Johnson. I'm a Zimbabwean. I got my full license in 1998 and I've been hunting professionally ever since, mainly in Zimbabwe and Cameroon, and I've done a little bit in Zambia as well.
Werner van Noordwijk, born and raised in South Africa, in the northern parts of South Africa, bordering Zimbabwe. Hunted from young childhood age of 7 with my father. I've been fully qualified Big 5 professional hunter for the last 27 years. Bought my company in the beginning from Jack Raal in South Africa and then transformed it into Van Noordwijk Safaris, of which is known to have been in the industry, like I say, for the last 27 years.
Obviously the Big 5 is all classes a dangerous game. Elephant, rhino, buffalo, lion and leopard. This is the Big 5.
You know, Big 5, every Big 5 is dangerous. So if you wound it, I think it's the most dangerous. So that's why they are most dangerous.
The danger factor on the Big 5, I always say it's the Big 5 like that. A lot of the time, the Big 5, starting with, as I explained to you, the elephant and the rhino, once they get shot, it gets reversed. So your leopard and buffalo, and that become more and more dangerous as you reversed your hand once they are wounded.
The most dangerous animal in Africa, as far as I'm concerned, is predominantly, I would say, wounded animals in Big 5. But I would also say animals that are provoked in a lot of ways, where people have the wrong impression. For example, on a hippo, where it's put out there that it's the most dangerous animal in Africa when it comes to killing and hurting people. But there's a reason for it. It's human-wildlife conflict, which is something we unfortunately have to deal with as human populations grow, and which, in my point of view, is one of the biggest threats to wildlife.
As far as hunting goes, probably elephant and buffalo, because you hunt far more elephant and buffalo than you will lion or leopard. If you hunted as many leopard and lion as you did buffalo, it would be another story.
You've got a much higher quota setting within the African countries of buffalo and leopard predominantly being hunted as the most favorite and most sold ones.
So knowing firstly where to shoot is really important, and then secondly that you can actually shoot the rifle that you're using.
A lot of the time, elephant, it's such a big animal, shot placement is a problem. It's like picking the right spot. It's intimidating when you're up close. You just see a big, huge animal, and with the excitement, the client doesn't put the shot in the right place, and then you've got a wounded animal in your hands. So you've got to follow it up.
The biggest mistakes I've seen made is you approach the elephant. Maybe you've decided you're going to shoot the elephant at 50 yards and you get into 20 yards and then you have whispering going on. That there is the worst thing you can do. A human's voice whispering at that distance can change an elephant's attitude from being half asleep standing under a tree to a full-on charge.
The biggest thing with elephant, knowing exactly where the vitals are. It's such a big animal. I often cut up an old skull, cut it in half, keep the skull closed, ask the client to guess where the brain is, and then once he's guessed, he makes a mark on the brain where he would shoot it from the front and where he would shoot it from the side with the black marker. We then open up the skull, and then you could see where his bullet would have gone if it would have hit the brain. You get a mental picture and a physical one of where the brain is. So that's helped me a lot over my years of hunting a lot of elephant.
It's a good idea, if we're talking like on elephant, is to constantly, sort of explain to the client, what the situations are going to be like. If the elephant is standing in this position, this is the shot that's going to be offered. And you obviously need to discuss beforehand whether the brain shot is going to be an option or not. Personally, I'd prefer not to take a brain shot unless we're forced into that situation, just because it's a very tricky shot, and again, very few people can pull that shot off correctly. But you need to know where the brain is if you're forced into that situation where maybe the elephant spins around and he starts walking towards you or he charges you. You've got to know where to shoot.
Elephant with a body shot, again, it's such a big body. You've got to be in that bottom third. Make sure you know where the heart and lungs are. You can look up in the books to get an idea of the anatomy. It shows you exactly on the skeleton where the heart and lungs are. So that can help you as well. And then once you see the animals live and walking and moving around, your professional hunter can show you exactly at different angles where to get through to the vitals. So depending on what you go to take your first shot, just learn the anatomy. And again, try and control your excitement.
I would say the two most common mistakes made when shooting dangerous game by clients and a lot of time by PHs. Overexcitement and not concentrating what you're doing. You overexcite the client, he's not going to concentrate what he's doing, and that ends up in a wounded animal. If I could ever give any advice, and I made these same mistakes as a young PH, as an upcoming PH through life. Stay calm as much as you can, no matter how exciting the moment. By you staying calm as a PH, and by you taking control of the situation, you will 90% of the time cut out the situation of wounded animals or bad shots taken.
I mean, you imagine you've never hunted big game and the next thing you're 20 meters from a big elephant bull. You're going to be very excited and you're not going to shoot as well as you would at a target.
It's going to be one of your first times approaching one of these big animals. It's exciting, it's a dream come true. It's an awesome experience.
And then another big mistake I see on almost every safari, whether it's in Zimbabwe or Cameroon in the north or in the jungle, especially on big game, elephant, buffalo, where you're getting up really close, people bring the wrong kind of footwear. They generally seem to buy shoes that are comfortable and made for hiking, and those are the worst shoes you could use on a hunting safari because they make so much noise. You want to avoid shoes that have a thin rubber bottom with foam. That is what makes all the noise, is that foam that makes a shoe comfortable. So the worst brands I've come across are Keen and Merrell's. Anything like that, throw them in the fire. Those are bad. You want a solid rubber sole. Russell make good ones, depending on what you're comfortable with wearing. Converse, the old basketball Converse, are one of the quietest. So anything with a solid rubber sole. Shoes,
very important. Not only should you hunt in shoes that your feet have gotten used to and that are comfortable, but get a shoe with a sole that's quiet, that doesn't sound like a freight train coming behind. Animals in Africa in general survive of three things. They survive of eyesight, smell, and noise. That's what keeps them alive. And whatever you can do in the sense of clothing, making yourself invisible, in the sense of being not noisy and quiet, in the sense of not getting smelled by checking the wind, will just so much help and make your chances better to be successful than to fail.
It's the biggest thing is try and get into yourself and get to a position where you're happy with your shot. Don't shoot if you're not happy with the shot. The professional hunter might be taller than you, he can see clearer. Just don't shoot if you're not happy with the shot. That's one of the biggest mistakes I've seen. The guy afterwards says, oh, well, I had brush in the way. Well, you didn't communicate with your professional hunter. Just say, no, I've got to move. I can't, there's brush in the way. An animal that's dangerous and there's consequences afterwards, after the shot is pulled. You don't want to have to say that. You want to have everything at your advantage and squeeze off the shot. That's the biggest thing. Don't pull the trigger.
Everything from the animal moved at the last second, which can happen. Couldn't see it properly. Wasn't steady. The list goes on. But at the end of the day, you shouldn't really take the shot until you're comfortable.
Most common excuses that you hear on bad shots is, as I pulled the trigger, the animal moved. Or I thought I was looking at something differently than what you were explaining, or I could not see the crosshairs nicely and I wasn't sure what I was shooting at. A lot of times, as we know, we try and blame a gun or try and blame a scope that's not right. It comes back to what I said earlier, where people are not paying attention, they are not talking to themselves inside mindfully, they don't control themselves, and they take shots that should not have been taken. Not practicing enough and not controlling yourself by taking that shot. No matter what excuse you make up, at the end of the day, somewhere, somehow, it's going to boil back to one of those three things.
Obviously the dangerous game is the danger factor. When you wound a lion or a leopard or a buffalo or an elephant, people's lives are now put at risk, normally the pH of the trackers.
The first shot, as we say in good old English, is the one that counts. Anything after that is a finishing off shot or it's a backup shot. A lot of times, in my point of view, not even needed if the first shot is done properly and correctly.
Breathe in, breathe half out. That's what I do. Squeeze the trigger and make sure you're pinpointing where you're putting that bullet. Even aim at a square on the skin of the elephant that you want to get your bullet in, and really pinpoint the center of the heart and lungs.
The common mistake to the client to when the animal move, or if the animal is running, you want to shoot the animal running.
I think one of the biggest mistakes that is made by hunters today is selecting a firearm, a heavy caliber that is not comfortable for them to shoot. I would much rather a client came out with a scope 375 that he shot well than try and use a double 470, 500, 600 that they're terrified of and they can't get a grouping of, under 3 feet at 30 yards. You're going to have a lot of problems like that.
In my point of view, when somebody starts talking rifles and they talk about doubles, they talk about bolt actions, they talk about whatever it is, my answer would always be to somebody, shoot the gun that you can, with closed eyes, put up in your shoulder and pull the trigger and know that you will pretty much hit whatever you shoot. Coming back to shooting the gun that you know the best, that you've shot the longest, yes, we all would like to have a double. We all would like to have a special Holland and Holland. If you're not familiar with that gun, if you have not shot that gun, I don't care what make it is, it's not going to do the job.
Lion, it's a problem with lion is sometimes it's in bad light. So a lot of it is making sure that you can see clearly enough. The great thing with optics these days, Swarovski, Leopold, they've really got these really great optics now that with the red dot in the center of the crosshair. So if you can get those, if you're going to be doing the cats, it's a great advantage.
Especially for cats, on your buffalo and elephant. In my opinion, buffalo you should never be shooting further than about 80 yards. That's the way we were taught, and I don't think I've ever shot a buffalo further than that. So you don't need a high-powered scope. But for hyena, lion, leopard, where you're shooting at dusk or dawn, a good scope makes the world of difference, eh? And maybe even having an illuminated reticle can help a lot as well.
When you see that big male lion, it's very exciting. It's your first lion. Again, try to control your excitement. Have a routine. Say, okay, breathe in, breathe half out. Okay, there's the heart lung. Squeeze the trigger. Make sure the cat's not moving up on the bait. It's stationary when you shoot. Those are the worst things I've seen. Clients get too excited, starts moving up on the bait instead of waiting for it to drop down. It hesitates up on the bait for just a second, and they think it's stationary, and as they shoot, the cat's pulling the bait and it's moved, and ends up a bad shot, and then we're in trouble. We have to follow a dangerous animal. If it's at a funny angle and you're not sure where the heart and lungs are, wait for the shot, wait for it to turn. Don't guess. You be certain of where your heart and lungs are and where you're going to put the bullet.
I've sat in many leopard blinds in my career where I've actually put my hand in front of the scope and told the client not to pull the trigger because I could hear the client was excited, the client is breathing, And in a situation like that, no matter how much you as a PH would tell the client, take your time, relax, it's not going to happen. Put a stop to the situation. That leopard is going to be there in 5 minutes or 10 minutes as well, or he's going to be there tomorrow morning. It is taking control of the situation, calming people down and making sure about shot placement. Clients, if you are not sure about a shot, if you have any doubt, if you have any bit of excitement, please do not pull the trigger. You are putting not only your own life in danger, but the people that are around you and the people that have to go in there to go and look for that animal. People that have families, people that have children. We are there supposed to be to do a clean shot, as quick, as painless as possible, and do the right thing.
The biggest thing is excitement and pulling the trigger, shooting while the animal's moving, taking shots where they shouldn't be taken.
Taking shots that you're not comfortable with. You know, you may get up onto a buffalo that's in very thick bush. You've been tracking it for 5 hours. You know, the horn is covering the part of the shoulder. You know, you got to be able to not take those kind of shots. You know, wait for a better shot, or if it means passing that buffalo up, that's what you got to do.
If a cat's going behind brush, rushing a shot where you think, oh, it's going to go, it's not going to come back, it's my last chance, and putting a bullet in, the shot should never have happened. And then you've got a serious situation. You could even lose a magnificent animal and never find it, which is also a very sad case. Leopard's a smaller target as well. It's the same sort of principle. Make sure you really hone in, and if it's in daylight, pick a spot where you want to shoot that spot, squeeze the trigger. With the leopard as well, it's the excitement. Again, they're so quiet and they just appear, it's magical, and they just all of a sudden up on the bait. Just try and keep your nerves down and just get your breathing right, and just remember, squeeze the trigger.
There are many forms of poaching in Africa. Bushmeat, both subsistence and commercial. Timber, fish, pangolin, ivory, rhino horn, and even succulents. As human populations grow, pressure on natural resources becomes ever more intense, and the work to protect wild places becomes more demanding. Hunting safari operations across the continent are on the front line of this battle. Patrol, Anti-Poaching in Action, is a twice-monthly online newsletter highlighting the anti-poaching work of safari hunting operations across Africa. The report comprises short documentaries, written articles, and photo essays. The goal is not to glamorize anti-poaching work, but to show the behind-the-scenes grind of this relentless battle. Revealing the unheralded work of these operations is imperative to highlight their significant contribution to conservation in Africa. Go to patrolling.org and subscribe.